Hello everyone, we are going to talk about unemployment today. First, let's understand how unemployment numbers are calculated. These numbers are produced by Bureau of Labor Statistics, or BLS in short, in the US Department of Labor. And this calculation is based on a monthly survey of 60,000 households, which is called Current Population Survey. And this survey is based on adult population. So the survey respondents are the ones who are 16 years old or older. And BLS divides population into three groups. The first one is employed. Employed category contains employees which are paid, self-employed, and unpaid workers in a family business. The second category is unemployed. These are the people who are not working but who have looked for work during previous 4 weeks. So here is the critical point that you should keep in your mind. Unemployed people are not only just not working, but they have also looked for work during previous 4 weeks. And the last category is not in the labor force, which this category contains everyone else. When we say labor force, we refer to sum of employed and unemployed people. Let's learn how to calculate unemployment rate, or U rate for short. Unemployment rate refers to the percentage of labor force that is unemployed. Therefore, U rate is calculated as 100 times. In the numerator, you have number of unemployed people. In the denominator, you have labor force. The second statistics that you need to know is labor force participation rate, or LFPR in short. This refers to percentage of adult population that is in the labor force. So labor force participation rate is equal to 100 times in the numerator labor force, and in the denominator you have adult population. Let's apply what we have learned, and in this exercise we are going to compute labor force, U rate, adult population, and labor force participation rate using the data of US by August 2019. So let's start with first labor force. Remember, labor force is the sum of employed, which is 157.9 million, plus unemployed, which is 6 million. And that is equal to 163.9 million. So we have completed labor force. Now let's calculate U rate. Remember, U rate is equal to 100 times, and in the numerator you have the unemployed people, number of unemployed, and in the denominator you have labor force. Therefore it's 100 times 6 million divided by 163.9 million, which is equal to 3.67%. This is the unemployment rate in 2019. And now let's calculate adult population. Adult population is the sum of all these categories. So we sum 157.9 plus 6 million plus 95.5 million, which is equal to 259.4 million. And finally, we calculate labor force participation rate. Remember, labor force participation rate is 100 times. In the numerator you have the labor force, in the denominator you have the adult population. Therefore 100 times labor force is 163.9 million divided by adult population 259.4 million, which is equal to 63.18%. You can find the answers on the slides as well. More examples. Here, the country of Bada has collected the following information. Adult population is given this time 240,000, employed people 180,000, and unemployed people 30,000. What is the labor force? Remember, labor force is employed plus unemployed, so 180k plus 30k, which is 210k, is the labor force. What is unemployment rate? U rate is equal to 100 times unemployed people 30k divided by 110k, which is labor force, and that is 14.28%. And finally, labor force participation rate is equal to 100 times labor force 210K divided by 240K, which is equal to 87.5%. So let's look at some demographics among the unemployed and employed people. First, we are going to compare different ethnicities, white and black, Asian and Hispanic, and also we compare between men and women. Let's start with ethnicity differences. The unemployment rate is 3% for white men, and for black men it's 5.9%. As you see, it's higher. And the differences in unemployment rate between white and black women is much less compared to white and black men, 3.2% versus 4.4%. For labor force participation rate, white men participates more, 71.8% compared to black men, 68.3%. And in terms of participation rates between white women and black women participates more, 62.1% compared to 58%. And when we look at the U rate and labor force participation for teens, which are 16 to 19 years old, the U rates are much higher. It should be obvious why it's higher, because these teenagers are usually at school and they work part-time if they work. So for white teenagers it's 11.8%, for black it's 15.7%. And for labor force participation, 37.9% of white teenagers participate in the labor market, whereas 29.2% for black teenagers. When we look at the Asian and Hispanic differences for all ages, U rate is 2.8% for Asian and 4.2% for Hispanic, and their participation rates are similar, 64% versus 66.7%. And this table shows employment status by education, and as you see, the unemployment rate goes down as you get higher degrees. Less than high school U rate is 5.4%, and their labor force participation is lower too, 47.1%. High school diploma 3.6%, and the participation increases 57.3%. Some college 3.1%, and participation is 65.6%. And bachelor's and more 2.1%, and the participation is 73.9%. Next, I want to talk about natural rate of unemployment. Natural rate of unemployment refers to the rate of unemployment around which the unemployment rate fluctuates. Cyclical unemployment is the deviation of unemployment from its natural rate. So the best way to understand natural rate, assuming that, let's say, natural rate is a long run average rate of unemployment. So for instance, this period you have 8% unemployment, next 4%, and then 6% and 5%. So let's say this is year 1, year 2, year 3, and year 4. You can assume natural rate is the average of all these numbers. So you sum 8 plus 4 plus 6 plus 5, which is going to be 8 plus 4 plus 6 plus 5 divided by 4, which in this case 23 divided by 4 is 5.75. So if you assume this is your natural rate, 5.75, if year 1 unemployment rate is 8%, then the difference between 8% and 5.75 represents the cyclical unemployment. As you see, it's the deviations of unemployment from its natural rate. In this case, it is a positive number, which is 2.25%. And for year 2, it's a negative number, and so on. So the deviation of unemployment from its natural rate is cyclical, and the natural rate, you might think it as an average number of the unemployment rates you see in the economy in the long run. So here you can see US unemployment rate 1960 and 2019. As you see, the gray shaded areas represents the recessions, and during the recessions, especially to the end, we see an increase in unemployment rate. And this red line represents the natural rate of unemployment rate. And here the difference between this one and this one represents the cyclical unemployment. This figure shows the labor force participation rates of men and women between 1948 and 2019. So here the blue one represents the men and the red one represents women. And over the years, as you see, the labor force participation of men decreases from 85, maybe more than 85%, to a level less than 70% in 2019. On the contrary, the labor force participation rate of women increases over the years, and it reached to top in 2010 and it decreases back again here after 2010, but it's still much higher compared to 1950s. So the first question is, why do we see an increase in labor force participation rate for women? This can be explained with different theories. The first one could be the cultural way of women's place in the past compared to current days. So woman was seen to be a mom and take care of the kids, especially in 1950s, but this way has changed over the years. So more women participated in the labor force. The second could be the house chores could be actually completed easier nowadays because of the improvements in the technology, but it was not the case in the past. And the next question is, we need to think about why we see a decreasing trend in labor force participation rate for men. This could be explained by higher years in school for men. Before maybe high school diploma, you can get a good job, but now you have to go to college, bachelor's and master's, so you're away from the labor while you are at school. The second could be stay-at-home dads. Now dads are also taking care of the kids at home. And the third could be the retirement, maybe retirement years now longer. This might be the reason labor force participation rate for men is decreasing. So here we have some examples that I want you to classify, each of them into one of the categories: employed, unemployed, and not in the labor force. So let's start with the first one. Steve worked 40 hours last week in an office supply store. So this person is employed. Last week, Elizabeth worked 10 hours as a computer programmer for a national video company and attended night classes at the local college. She would prefer a full-time. Still, even if you work 4 hours a week, you are considered as employed. Part-time jobs are considered as employed. Roger lost his job at the argon manufacturing company. Since then, he has been trying to find a job at other local factories. This person is unemployed. Why? Because he lost his job, but he also is looking for a job. Linda is a homemaker. Last week she was occupied with her normal household chores. She neither held a job nor looked for a job. This person is not in the labor force. Linda's father is unable to work, not in the labor force. Scott has a PhD. He works full-time but doesn't like his job as a dishwasher. He has applied for jobs with 3 companies and 5 universities. As soon as he gets an offer, he will quit his current job. This person is underemployed but employed. That means he is not doing the job matching with his skills and training and education. But still he's working, therefore it's considered as employed. Mary Helen has been out of work for a full year. She would take a job if it was offered, but no local companies are hiring. She is not actively searching for a job. That's why this person is not in the labor force. Remember, to be unemployed, you have to search for a job. Not having a job is not a satisfactory condition to be considered as unemployed. Let's look at this example. In each of the following, what happens to U rate? Does the U rate give an accurate impression of what is happening in the labor market? Hailey lost her job and begins looking for a new one. So this person is employed, then lost job and looking for a new job, unemployed. So that is exactly what happened in the economy, and the U rate gives the accurate picture. Let's look at this one. Yosia, a steel worker who has been out of work since his mill closed last year, becomes discouraged and gives up looking for work. Now here we have problem, right? because this person is not considered as unemployed. Why? Because he's not looking for work. But actually, this person is unemployed. So this is called discouraged worker. This person is discouraged. Why? Because he looked for a job long time and he couldn't get. Therefore, he's considered as not in the labor force. And now the U rate doesn't give the accurate picture of the economy, right? Why? Because the U rate says that this person is no longer considered as unemployed, but in fact this person is unemployed. Just because he discouraged, he gives up looking for work. Let's look at C. Karim, sole earner in his family of 5, just lost his 80,000 job as a research scientist. Immediately he takes a part-time job at McDonald's until he can find another job in his field. So this person is considered as employed. But again, we know that this person is doing a job that doesn't fit to his qualifications. And this type of workers are called underemployed. But they are in fact unemployed. For that reason, because of the definition of employment and unemployment rate, this person is considered as employed. U rate does not give the accurate picture of the economy. Unemployment rate, and we know that it's not a perfect indicator of joblessness or the health of the labor market based on the examples we have completed. First of all, it excludes discouraged workers. To be unemployed, you have to look for a job. And also, it does not distinguish between full-time and part-time work. Regardless of the job you do, you are considered employed as long as you are working. But there are people working part-time because full-time jobs are not available. And finally, some people misreport their work status. They might say that they are unemployed or not in the labor force, but actually they are working under the table. This is called underground economy. But still, U rate is a very useful barometer of the labor market and the economy. Now let's understand different types of unemployment. The first one is frictional unemployment. Frictional unemployment occurs when workers spend time searching for the jobs that best suit their skills and tastes. This is short term for most workers, but remember, natural rate is a long-term unemployment rate, and it includes frictional plus structural. And the unemployment rate that you see currently is the sum of natural rate plus the cyclical unemployment. So frictional unemployment happens, for example, you graduate in December and then you get an offer from, let's say, Kansas. But you don't want to go live in Kansas, so you continue to look for a job. And you become a frictionally unemployed because you have a job offer, but you are looking for a job that fits to your taste. Another example for frictional unemployment, let's say you graduated as an accountant, but you get a job offer for being an officer in any company, and you said you don't want that job because it doesn't fit to your skills and education. So again, you become a frictionally unemployed. This is short term for most workers. The second one is structural unemployment. Structural unemployment happens when the number of jobs available in some labor markets is insufficient to provide a job for everyone who wants one. Usually a longer term for the people who are structurally unemployed. We will see the examples of structural unemployment in the following slides. Let's talk about job search. Job search is the process by which workers find appropriate jobs given their taste and skills. We know that because we need time to find the right job, there is always a frictional unemployment, and frictional unemployment is inevitable. Sectoral shifts happens in the US economy a lot, which refers to the changes in the composition of demand among industries or regions. In 1980s, maybe manufacturing was in high demand, but then it changed to service industry in the US, and most of the jobs now are service industry. Dentistry, accountant, restaurants, or all are service industry. So there are sectoral shifts, so because of that, some people will lose job and some people find new jobs in the new sectors. And also the reason of sectoral shifts might be because of changing patterns of international trade. And we know that the economy is always changing, so the sectors are also changing. Here we talk about public policy and job search. Government-run employment agencies provide information about job vacancies. This actually decreases the unemployment rate. Why? Because you can find information about available jobs and get a job. Public training programs also decrease unemployment rate. Why? Because these public training programs equip displaced workers with skills needed in growing industries. And advocates of these programs says that keeps the labor force more fully employed, and these programs reduce the inequities inherent in a constantly changing market economy. But some people are critical of public policy and job search, and they say that should the government get involved with the process of job search, it's better to let the private market match workers and jobs rather than the government. The government is most likely worse, disseminating the right information to the right workers, deciding what kinds of worker training would be most valuable. The next policy is unemployment insurance. This is a government program that partially protects workers' incomes when they become unemployed. That means if you lose your job for some reasons that you cannot control, then the government is going to compensate you for a certain period of time. And this reduces the hardship of unemployment, but unfortunately it increases unemployment. This is one of the unintended consequences of unemployment insurance. UI benefits end when a worker takes a job, so workers have less incentive to search or take jobs while eligible to receive benefits, and that increases unemployment rate. So what are the benefits of UI? First of all, it reduces income uncertainty, and unemployed have more time to search. Unemployed can look for jobs that better suit their taste and skills, and it improves the ability of the economy to match each worker with the most appropriate job. Now we come to the part that I will explain why we have structural unemployment. We say that we don't have enough jobs for everybody, then we have structural unemployment. And here on the screen you see labor supply and labor demand. So this represents the people who are looking for job. So they are ready to supply their services, let's say workers looking for job. Demand represents the demand for labor, and this demand comes from businesses. So it's kind of reverse what we have learned in chapter 4. Demand represents buyers, supply represents sellers, but here demand represents businesses and sellers are households. And the intersection of these two curves is the wage, equilibrium wage rate, and here we have the labor hours. Let's talk about the structural unemployment. So let's assume W1 is the actual wage, and now at that actual wage, demand is here and supply is here. As you see, it creates unemployment. That is the reason we have structural unemployment. There are 3 reasons the wages are set above the equilibrium wage. The first one is the minimum wage. Minimum wage may exceed the equilibrium wage for the least skilled and least experienced workers, causing structural unemployment. Quantity of labor supplied exceeds the quantity of labor demand if the minimum wage is above the equilibrium wage, and workers are unemployed because they are waiting for jobs to open up. The second reason is union. Worker association that bargains with employers over wages, benefits, and working conditions. And unions exert their market power to negotiate higher wages for workers. The typical union worker earns 10 to 20% higher wages and gets more benefits than a non-union worker for the same type of work. So anybody inside the union is getting the benefits, higher wages and more benefits, but people outside the union are not getting these benefits. Unions raise the wage above equilibrium. Quantity of labor demanded falls and unemployment results. If there is a union, businesses would like to hire less labor. Therefore, the quantity of labor demanded is less than quantity supplied to the market. Insiders, which are the workers who remain employed, are better off. Outsiders, workers who lost their jobs, are worse off. Some outsiders go to non-unionized labor markets, which increases labor supply and reduces wages in those markets. So critics of unions say that unions are cartels. They raise wages above equilibrium, which causes unemployment and depresses wages in non-union labor markets, and they say it's inefficient and inequitable. Advocates of unions say that unions counter the market power of large firms, make firms more responsive to workers' concerns, and keep a happy and productive workforce. The third reason why we have wages above the equilibrium wage is the efficiency wage theory. This theory refers to the situation that firms voluntarily pay above equilibrium wages to boost worker productivity and increase firm profitability. There are different types of efficiency wage theories, and these different theories suggest different reasons why firms pay high wages. The first one is worker health. In less developed countries, poor nutrition is a common problem. Paying higher wages allows workers to eat better, makes them healthier and more productive. Worker turnover. Hiring and training new workers is costly, therefore paying higher wages gives workers more incentive to stay and reduces turnover. Worker quality. Offering higher wages attracts better job applicants, increases the quality of the firm's workforce. And finally, worker effort. Workers can work hard or shirk. Shirkers are fired if caught. Is being fired a good deterrent? Depends on how hard it's to find another job. If market wage is above equilibrium wage, there aren't enough jobs to go around, so workers have more incentive to work, not shirk. Let's answer this question, and that will be the end of this chapter. Which of the following would be most likely to reduce frictional unemployment? The first one is government eliminates the minimum wage. Minimum wage is related to structural unemployment. Remember, frictional is all about taste and skills and sectoral shifts. In structural, there are not enough jobs for everybody. The reason is wages above the equilibrium wage. The second one, the government increases unemployment insurance benefit. Increasing UI is actually increases frictional unemployment. Why? Because people take more time, because they have money, to find a job that fits to their skills. A new law bans labor unions. Remember, unions increases the wages above the equilibrium, therefore it causes structural unemployment. More workers post their resumes at LinkedIn.com, and more employers use LinkedIn.com to find suitable workers to hire. This will going to decrease frictional unemployment. And the next one is sectoral shifts become more frequent. This will increase frictional unemployment. And this is the end of this chapter. Thank you.